Te Dakota te whara o Auckland Unitarians. Te Dakota nā manahiri. No mai, hire mai ki tēnei whare karakia a te atua. Te Dakota te natata katoa. Welcome to this place. This is a home where no revealed truths are promoted and no scripture or human being accepted as infallible. This is a place for searching for truth. But we are believers. We believe in intellectual freedom. We believe in justice. We believe in compassion and concern for each other and the whole world. We believe in a commitment to those ideals which make us caring and active in the struggles for human dignity. We come together freely to seek sustenance for that struggle in word, song, and morning tea. Day breaks on our gratitude for family and friends, for the freedom to find our own truth, for the company of those who gather here, and the promises we offer one another. Let the light of day bring the grace of faith to our lives. Please join me in the words for our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow in harmony. Thus do we covenant with each other and with our God. Please stand if you're able to sing Spirit of Life. Let us stand to sing our Koha hymn. Today, we have a guest speaker at your many of you know Martin Lewis. He used to attend here. He lives in Christchurch now. He's been a part of our Zoom congregation since we started. And he has some notoriety here. I understand he helped found the men's group. And so many people here know him from that. So he has videotaped his talk. And it seems a fitting topic for Unitarians, liberating the outlaw. It's from a much longer talk, which he has edited, and he's feeling like he somehow screwed it up, but I think it's fine, and you should enjoy that. So in preparation for that, I want to offer this reading by Karen Johnston. The reason I chose it is it reminds me of a day when I was in university. I had many odd part-time jobs. One of them was sitting at the desk of a girls' dorm. I chose well, to let the ladies in when they stayed out past lockout. And it was kind of a lonely thing, usually. But one night I heard this big thump. And I went outside to look at what's going on, and there was a little hummingbird that had seeking the light, had flown into the window. And I carefully got it up, and we chatted. He said he was alive, and that was good. And then I went out way far away from the building and tried to get him to go fly. And he just sat there. But eventually, he got the point, and he took off. It was the most beautiful bird, beautiful emerald hummingbird. Anyway, this is a similar story. An earnest 6-year-old once informed me that hummingbirds must have nectar every 10 minutes. So I knew the situation was urgent. I had walked into an empty old house that was not entirely empty. A hummingbird was trapped inside, was frantically trying to get out. The quickest way it knew how, follow the light, head for the sky. Yet window panes would not yield. The front door already open, I opened another wide, hoping to increase the chance of escape. The bird, its wings a thrumming blur, moved away from the window. For the briefest moment, I thought it might find its escape. It did not. Instead, it flew further into the house, drawn to a different window. I climbed awkwardly on the back of a couch next to the window. When I reached the high sash, I beheld the hummingbird, a worrisome lack of motion. It was alive, but exhausted. I took the bird in the nest of my 2 human hands. As I cupped my hands around this tiny sentient being, it yielded. There was not much else it could do. Such is the case with surrender. It is the last thing, often the only thing available. And so we give ourselves to it. We fear it is our end. Sometimes, with grace or luck, we find it is our liberation. I walked that bird to the outside, stopping at a tall, branch-laden bush. I stuck my hand into its depths and opened them wide. In the time it took my heart to skip a beat, the bird jumped into the nest of the bush, then into the world beyond. Surely this was a time for exaltation. Yet I found myself sobbing, surrendering to a crest of emotion I could not name then, still cannot name now, but could only ride and allow to flow through me. She then goes on to offer this prayer. Spirit of life and love, may we all find our way out of the walls that keep us in. May we find our way out into the world that holds our collective liberation, so tender, so dire. May we at birth, throughout life and in death, surrender with humility and curiosity. May we be reminded of what we love rather than what we fear. And now I need to invite Martin in, so we'll take a minute.
Tēnā koutou whanau a Tamaki Unitarians. It's great to be able to speak to you all today, and particularly to those whom I know. Today I'm speaking about freedom, a huge subject which I will only be able to skim the surface of. Even this talk was cut down from a 3-hour exploration of the subject. To some people of the world, freedom is easy to define. Freedom from oppression by a dominant culture, the freedom to walk the streets unaccosted, the freedom to live safely in your own home, the freedom to say or write what you think without fear of being imprisoned, or worse. But we in the Western democratic societies are free, aren't we? Those sort of issues aren't ours to fear, or at least haven't been for the last few decades, right? Right now, some are kicking against what they feel is a deprivation of their fundamental freedoms, the right to move and associate freely, Has the leadership of our society the right to limit freedom under the circumstances? Most of us would concede that they do for the greater good. So when are we free to do and be whatever we like in the moment? What gives us that sense of freedom, or limits it? What supports the illusion of freedom? It is just an illusion, isn't it? What is freedom to us in a supposedly free society? Why would we willingly give it up? Some define freedom as having choice, having options. But if you've ever been in a large European or American supermarket with 100 different types of milk to choose from, it doesn't feel like freedom. If your life is always full of that many choices, it often feels stressful, more like a burden than freedom. So how far does freedom extend before it ceases to be freedom, or imposes on another's freedoms? Part of the social contract in a free society is that my freedom ends where it impinges on the freedoms of others. So am I allowed to take risks that affect others? This is a far more complex formula than it initially seems. Many of us have a temporary solution that delivers a sense of freedom when we feel burdened by responsibility. The responsibilities of employment, parenting, etc., by life. An escape from reality that provides moments in which we can recuperate, rebalance and restore ourselves, ready to re-enter the fray of daily life. We find a physical or mental escape in a sport, DIY, craft or hobby, reading a book or playing a piece of music, a walk in nature or a game of chance. There are as many possibilities as there are people to imagine them. Researching and writing, collecting bottle caps, restoring furniture or a car. Why does this feel freeing? They may provide an environment with its own rules and disciplines. A sport has rules common to all players. So a cohesive community with clear insiders and outsiders. A community that knows the rules and a referee who enforces them. These escapes all provide a time out from the real world where mundane concerns can be forgotten in the moment. In fact, need to be if you're going to be effective in doing whatever the diversion is. They provide a temporary freedom, or at least an illusion of freedom. And oddly enough, not by increasing choice or reducing constraints, but by clearly defining them. Some seek a more permanent freedom by escaping from society and its demands, its responsibilities, from the compromises required to balance their freedoms with those of others around them. Hermits withdraw to remote locations and isolated places that the majority would not consider. Vagabonds and nomads relinquish material burdens, social responsibilities and security for the freedom of the road. But are they free? Is their idea of freedom to have nothing so that there is nothing to lose? Each freedom gained by this sort of retreat is bought at a high price. All the benefits of community, social interaction, modern medicine, technology, joint food production, etc., is exchanged for a lot of hard work, subsistence living. A more direct form of responsibility. This is a price only a special few are willing or able to pay. So some seek to build an alternative society, becoming outsiders, similar to the individual hermits, but a compromise with the best and worst of both options perhaps. But being a smaller community of like-minded people, it has a chance of providing that sense of freedom. Others seek to build a community within the society, cultural clubs or support groups, where members share a common understanding, whether they're of a particular geographical origin, a common experience like surviving cancer, or a shared philosophy or religion. My impression is that the feeling of freedom comes from having a worldview which correlates with the worldview of the community you're in. Fitting in, belonging, the comfort of understanding and sharing the rules and conventions to which everyone abides. Being willing to abide by them oneself, doing so reflexively without thought, because it's so ingrained that it is natural and obvious, the right thing. Many of our choices predefined or limited by the culture, options refined. We feel safer, more secure, free from having to be constantly alert and guarded, free from having to make choices. Perhaps we feel that we're an individual who chooses to rebel and flout convention. But how far outside those conventions do we really venture? The answer will differ from individual to individual. But why? I believe that we are guided through life by an unconscious map some call our ego, or superego, created by our experiences of family, community, society, culture, religion or philosophy, and physical environment throughout our lives, but particularly during our childhood, when our map is most blank and uncluttered. The more fully one's map fits the social norms of our environment, the more secure and at home we feel. The freer one is to move within these unconscious boundaries, or even push against them to some degree. Not everyone has that comfort. I'd say very few have a perfect fit. The ones who do feel perfectly aligned are the ones who are most sure of who else belongs or does not. And perhaps a little doubt is not a bad thing. As I said earlier, part of the social contract in a free society is that freedom ends where it impinges upon the freedoms of others. If everyone is working from the same or very similar maps, that contractual clause isn't usually a problem. Most of the time we are happily constrained by convention. But if someone or some circumstance insists a map needs to be redrawn or even replaced, this challenges the unconscious comfort we know. So we dance gently round the rights to meet our own needs and the responsibilities that accompany them in society. I believe that in the natural order of things we earn rights by bearing responsibility, that these two things are irrevocably entwined, that when we abdicate or relinquish responsibility, we surrender rights to those who then must bear them. Equally, we see that they who take on greater responsibility within society attain or assume greater rights. So in a socially responsible society which says it will care for your health when you're ill or injured, thus freeing you from that burden, one loses the right to object if the same society insists you take care of your health by wearing a bicycle helmet or a seat belt, or demands safe work practices, or restricts your food choices and risk-taking behaviours, or even says you may not leave your home for a month. As with all things, a balance must be found. The freedom from the burden of responsibility, or the right, the freedom, to choose the risks. Which provides the greater freedom? A parent takes on enormous responsibility when they become a parent and must have the rights required to raise that child. Responsibilities that the child cannot bear and rights that the child cannot exercise fall to the parent. And one of the great skills of parenting is finding how and when to pass on those responsibilities and relinquish the rights that go with them. Why doesn't that always feel freeing? Some societies manage to share the child-rearing burden, the responsibilities, So what rights do they assume? And what if you didn't grow up in this society, or if you experienced different cultural parameters, rules and expectations to the norm, or belonging to a different religion or race perhaps? You may have different expectations to what your rights and responsibilities are, a quite different map. Not being able to live by your own unconscious map, you may become very conscious of the differences. You might judge the society you're in to be wrong, even corrupt, or more likely you'll simply feel alien, oppressed, inhibited, and uncomfortable, not at all free. Insiders might, acting out of their unconscious knowing, make you an outsider, an outlaw. They might perceive you to be a misfit, that all your people of your kind, identified by appearance, colour, customs, accent, culture, age, economic status, education or gender, tend not to conform to their norms and therefore must all be outlaws, no matter how much you might endeavour to conform. Or you might view them in such a way. This, by definition, is prejudice. Profiling or stereotyping your kind versus their kind. Unconsciously, they've already profiled their kind, and you're not it. Whatever the basis, it's a discrimination. A judgment of your worth based on a perception of you versus their perception of themselves, neither on your true merit nor on theirs. So you're an outlaw, an outsider, for differing from the norm. Yet you know that your unconscious cultural perspective is right, and they have it wrong, just as they know otherwise. Or perhaps you feel they are right. You are an inferior, a misfit. If they are the majority, they definitely have the power. They have social dominance. This no doubt discomforts you, possibly angers you, even if you don't fully understand where the anger is coming from. So what do you do with the anger? Some turn it outward on those who reject them. Some turn it inward on themselves and their kind for being inferior. Some do both. So you have choices that you make. How you will be in that society. Often these are unconscious, but they are what you, at some level, perceive work for you. Ideally, they would be conscious choices, but they usually aren't. The choices are to deny yourself, your culture, all the different expectations you experienced and try to adapt, to submit. Or to embrace the outlaw label, break the rules, live outside the society, express the anger. This may feel like freedom, or at least more free than submission does. Some become the hermit or the vagabond, or if they have the numbers, create their own little society within the greater one, their Chinatown or cultural club. But to do this requires sufficient of your kind to band together to resist the dominant culture. Those who embrace the outlaw status and the feelings of freedom it brings might choose to break all the rules and laws, oppressive or not, might join gangs such as the mongrel mob of the Black Power, which are very tribal and feel very culturally appropriate to their members. Perhaps an example of creating one's own cultural community, an outlaw community that fits the familiar rules. Tribal, loyal, sharing, protective, with a hierarchical power base, but outside the dominant society's control. An attempt to empower those who feel powerless in the dominant society. Conforming to what are often even stricter sets of rules and conventions more harshly imposed. So if the dominant society objects to these outlaws, what can they do about it? Traditionally, we separate outlaws from our society. We lock them up and isolate them from decent society for a while. Take away their freedom. Diminish their rights for their apparent irresponsibility. But history shows us that this doesn't solve the problems. Not permanently anyway. In fact, it often creates more and bigger problems. For the disempowered, it may also accentuate the need to belong to an outlaw group that can manifest some power. For some, it becomes a rite of passage to outlaw We've tried this way for hundreds of years without success. Perhaps it's time we tried something radically different. Past efforts to reform have all been driven by our existing paradigms and therefore possibly missed the point. From time to time, in fact constantly within my lifetime, our society feels the need to review its perspectives on various norms. Working conditions, from slavery to equal pay for equal work, anti-war movements, universal suffrage, the women's movement, abortion rights, racial equality, cultural acceptance, and currently drug management, environment issues, and end-of-life choices. All driven by the desire for greater freedoms. So how do we liberate the outlaw? No change is easy, especially since so much of our map is an unconscious construct, and a culture is just a shared unconscious construct. It takes a sustained effort and time to raise an individual's awareness, let alone sufficient individuals to shift the entire society's awareness, pushing the envelope and weathering the pushback. And we seem to be headed into an era of backlash against the liberal. Sustaining that effort to educate is a lot of work and may take generations. Recent research indicates that fake news spreads faster than real news and is harder to dispel. Apparently this is because it usually targets our fears and insecurities, our sense of power over our lives and our freedom. The antidote is thought to be to get ahead of the potential falsehoods with the truths. To me, this suggests that we need to embrace the use of positive propaganda, a word that has taken on very negative connotations, but really just means promoting ideas. We need to research and educate about science, both physical and social, so that people have more informed choice. However, as much of our decision-making is subliminal, it also means consciously and deliberately moulding early experience and influences in formative years, encouraging an interest in self-awareness and an individual understanding of the influences on oneself. Philosophers have advised this for eons. The Delphi Gate was inscribed "Know yourself" in 1400 BC. This becomes even more important as those influences become more manipulable by powerful new technologies. I guess what I'm saying is fight fire with fire. Use positive social influence to counter self-serving commercial influence. Of course, the danger in this is the unconsciousness of our belief. We're in danger of pushing our prejudices, so to do it well requires a soft grip on our own belief systems. To soften our grip, we require a better understanding of the dynamics between cultures, bringing to consciousness the underlying signposts that control our responses to every aspect of life, reviewing our maps, making clear and conscious choices that supersede the unconscious reflexive ones dictated by our conditioning. Many of these choices we've made we'll choose to keep. Some we'll want to modify, others we'll keenly discard. This surely will increase our freedom from compulsive or reactive living, and with it, our general sense of freedom. Once we're clearer about the changes we seek and why we seek them, once we're freer in ourselves to understand and accept difference, then we can move to educate and encourage others. Not imposing our will or suppressing their freedoms, but if their freedom is based on the oppression of our freedoms, raising their awareness and encouraging their change. Since community requires compromise, there will always be a subtle ebb and flow of individual freedoms, but as long as that remains subtle, that's fine. A society that is ruled for the sake of the society over the individual becomes fascism. A society that overemphasizes the individual to the detriment of society will become anarchy. So my belief is that freedom, or at least the sense of it, is largely a perception, a state of mind, a thing that can be taken from us by fear-mongering or increased by surety, confidence in one's security. That we can increase our own sense of freedom by increasing the sense in everybody within our community. And to do that, we must work towards a mutual accommodation. What do you think? Thank you.
Let us stand now to sing our closing hymn. Okay, please help me in joining me in the words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the life truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. My closing words are by John Cummins. May we never rest until every child of earth in every generation is free from all prisons of the mind and of the body and of the spirit, until the earth and the hills and the seas shall dance, and the universe itself resound with the joyful cry, "Behold, I am."